October is Financial Planning Month, and that becomes increasingly important as we're nearing our golden years. In today's Aging in Place, we're joined in studio by financial advisor Bob Haney. Good morning, Bob. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Got to talk about dollars and cents,
That's
right?
right.
Especially as we're getting closer and closer to the senior years and retirement. We've got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to start off with the Secure Act. For folks who may not be familiar with that, what exactly is it?
Sure. So in 2019 and 2022, Congress passed two laws, Secure Act in 2019 and Secure Act 2.0 in 2022. There was a lot of information really packed into these bills, so I would encourage you to do some reading. But I want to talk today specifically about how the Secure Acts affect IRAs and 401ks and distributions at retirement.
Yeah. And how do they impact it? Because there are different kinds of IRAs. There are the, inherited IRAs, spousal, non-spousal. So let's just kind of dive into that.
Sure. So one of the big things that came out of it was changes in the required minimum distributions, or RMDs, some of you may be familiar with. Prior to these acts being passed, you were required to start taking money out of a 401k or an IRA by the time you were 70 and a half. That age is now increased to 73, and there will be additional increases over the next decade. Again, this is all in the Secure Act. One of the other changes was the changes in penalties to required minimum distributions. If you failed to take your RMD prior to these acts being passed, you were assessed a 50% penalty. They have now reduced that penalty to 25%. And as far as how the distributions from spousal inherited IRAs go, that didn't really change a whole lot. The biggest change is if your spouse passes away and they had already started taking RMDs from their account, you are required to continue taking RMDs. However, if they haven't, you can wait until your RMD age, and then you will have to start taking it at that point.
And I guess the advantage is if you're waiting, years later, that's longer, that money can stay in the IRA and can continue building value.
Sure. Yeah, and there's, I'm not going to get into a lot of specifics today. Sometimes there's an argument for why people should start taking money out prior to RMD age. However, the IRS says you must do it by the time you're 73. Definitely would encourage you to speak with a financial professional about the best time for you to take those distributions. And one of the biggest impacts, I think, is the 10-year rule that was imposed on non-spousal inherited IRAs. This can certainly create a taxation problem for maybe higher net worth individuals who inherit a significant amount of money from their parents or a family member, because the IRS does require you to get that account balance down to zero by the end of 10 years. So if you wait all the way until the 10th year to take all of the money out, you'll be in a significantly higher tax bracket, and you could end up losing almost half of that inheritance to state and federal taxes.
Oh, and nobody wants that to happen at all. Yeah,
no.
That's getting hit in the wallet a lot. And we did have some other points that come up from Secure Act, making it easier to move money from employer to employer, things like that. So
yes.
Bottom line, whatever kind of, you want to have something, you want to have an IRA, 401k, something like that.
Sure, absolutely. And there were a lot of good points in the Secure Act, but again, it is very, like any bill passed by Congress, there's really a lot packed into those bills.
Sure.
If you don't really understand that information or not really sure, what to make of it, I would definitely encourage you to speak to a financial professional, speak to your accountant if you have one, because there can be some potentially negative consequences in the form of excess taxation if you don't manage that inheritance.
And as we're nearing toward the end of the year,
correctly,
we got to start thinking about that as we're getting ready to, wrap up 2024 and looking ahead to 2025. Certainly.
Yep.
All right, Bob. As always, thank you so much for coming in today. Some really important information. In case you missed any of our segment, you'll find a link to it on our morning page on our website WDBJ7.com. Just look for Aging in Place. Stay with us. We'll be right back.